It's the middle of December, the days are short, and I'm going to go outside and cook. What I've got here is looks like about 3 pounds of chuck roast, and I was trying to think about what am I going to do with this chuck roast besides just regular pot roast or whatever, and how am I going to apply barbecue to this? Well, I thought about it and I decided, and actually because you know the time of year it is and everything, I'm in the mood for it. So I'm going to go to a Mexican style of barbecue called Barbacoa. And that this is actually going to be my spin on it. This is by no means going to be traditional. If you're going to make traditional barbacoa, then you're going to have a deep pit, and you're going to take this meat and you're going to spice it up. You're going to put it on a grate down in the ground, maybe over a cauldron so it can catch all the juices, and you're going to wrap it maybe in some aloe vera leaves and stuff, and you're going to bury it and do the deep pit thing with it. And it's just like barbecue anywhere else. It's very regional down in Mexico. So different parts of Mexico are going to have what they claim to be the proper way to do the barbacoa. You know, some of it is going to be all about pork. Other places it's going to be about mutton, goat, and lamb and sheep. Sometimes it's beef. I know here up in the Central Valley in California, commonly we'll see it in either beef or pork. So we're going to go with beef. We're going to go with a chuck roast, which is definitely not a cut that they would use for this normally. And we're going to get some smoke on it, and we're going to show you how this is done. One of the things I really like about Mexican style barbecue is their incorporation of fruit juices and the complexity of the spices that they bring into it. Their barbecue is nowhere near as sweet as what we're used to, you know, like in our southern barbecues and stuff like that. So ought to be interesting. I'll show you what my spin on it is. I've never actually made this particular recipe before, so I'm kind of putting it together as I go. I know it's going to be outstanding because that's how it is when I cook things, but you're along for the ride. So hey, win or lose, let's see what we get, right? All right, so here's what I got going. Made a little rub here, and in that rub what I've got is I've got some ancho chili powder, garlic powder, onion powder, lots of black pepper, salt, Mexican oregano, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to rub it all over this this chuck roast. And we're going to let it sit on there for a good couple of hours. You know, it would be even better if I could do it overnight, but a couple hours will be good. You know, one of the things I really like about the traditional barbacoa, the way they do it in Mexico, you know, it's a tradition that goes back, shoot, I mean, before the Spaniards ever came to the country. I mean, it was really by the Indians and stuff that lived in the area had kind of started that process. Very similar to the way Polynesians did it. And, you know, obviously it's changed and stuff down through the years, but the cooking methods kind of stayed the same. Personally, I don't do a lot of deep pit cooking because it's not easy to do that and still get the presence of the smoke in the meat, and that's important to me. But they actually understood that. So when they would bury the meat in the ground, they would actually take some of the mesquite coals and some smoldering mesquite wood and really put it right in there with the meat so that they would get that smoke introduced in the meat properly. So I think that's really cool that they did that. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and dust this rub on here, get it rubbed in a couple of hours, and I'm actually going to let this while this rub's on here, I'm going to let the meat stay out. I'm going to lightly cover it, maybe some saran wrap or something, or maybe I'll stick it in a big gallon sized baggie, but I'm going to let it come up to room temperature, and then we're going to cook this in my little portable miniature WSM Weber's Smoky Mountain cooker. And we'll let it sit in there and do a little cooking, get some smoke in it and stuff like that, and then we're going to pull it out and we're going to put it into a pan. And we're going to add some concoction that we make up here in a little while. I'll show you what we do with that. And then it's going to go for a few hours until this basically just falls apart and reabsorbs all those juices along with the stuff that we're going to add in there with it. And hopefully by the time this is all done, you're going to want to go do the same thing yourself after you see what this looks like. Alright, so there it is. It's all set up, rubbed, stuck on there good. And we're going to let that go for 2 to 3 hours. Then we'll go outside. Okay, so we got smoke in the pit. We're just going to lay this bad boy on there. Beautiful. We're going to let that ramp up to about 275 degrees. We can let it sit here and smoke for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Then we'll pull it and we'll put it in the pan, and I'll show you what other kind of magic we do with it. Okay, so now we're going to build our sauce. And I'm going to reiterate here that this is not traditional barbacoa that I'm putting together here. It's just my spin on it. It's done so many different ways. I mean, there really is a traditional way of doing it that's closer than what I'm doing, but I'm also bringing in our California Central Valley influence, and yeah, I'm doing my own way here. So we put in a half of onion there, and now we're putting in some fresh lime juice. I'll probably put the juice of 4 or 5 limes. We'll see what we get here. And I don't want this to be a super wet type of sauce. I'm hoping it'll be a little more of a paste, well, like a wet paste really. I don't need to add much moisture in because I'm not going to completely cook this meat out in the open so that everything renders out and falls away. Like I said, traditionally they will have a cauldron of some kind underneath it, a pot or something, and they catch those drippings. And they use those for kind of a soup, or sometimes they'll reintroduce a little bit of it back into the meat. Beef's pretty moist. I mean, beef it renders a lot of stuff, so it's not really going to need me to add anything for moisture to it. I'm adding flavor with this is what I'm doing. So we got 4 limes there that we added in, half of a large white onion. And I'm not really measuring, I'm just playing it by ear here. So we're going to put a little garlic powder in there, a little onion powder. Even though we got onion in it, that's a different flavor. And just a little tiny bit, we don't want to overdo this, of ground clove. And we'll be a little bit more liberal here with the Mexican oregano. And I'm going to add in, these are canned chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. Chipotles are not used in traditional barbacoa. We would typically use like some anchos, a combination of 2 to 3 different dried peppers. Maybe you'd toast them for fragrance and soften them, and then you would puree them. That would be more along the lines of what you'd see in a traditional, but we're going to go with the chipotle because I like the sweetness that they bring in. And then we're going to go crazy with some garlic because we love us some garlic. Get this thing on right and we'll get to work. Alright. And we're just going to liquefy this. Looking good. That's about what I was looking for, really. So I'm going to add in a little salt, black pepper. I don't do anything without black pepper. Okay, that should do it. We want to scrape off as much of this as we can. We want to keep it all. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, she's cranked up there doing about 275, and we've got a combination, a little bit of cherry wood and mostly mesquite smoke coming out of there. The traditional wood for this kind of barbecue is mesquite, so I got something right. Anyway, what I did was I went ahead and put the meat into a foil pan. It had been on for about an hour at that point, so it had taken some smoke in. And then we went ahead and we put our paste on it, and so we're letting that sit in the pan and catch the juices and catch the smoke at the same time. We're going to let it ride that way for quite a while, and when it looks about right to me, then we'll go ahead and foil wrap it and let it tenderize up. So we're about an hour into the cook. Probably got another 3 hours, I'd say, to go before it's completely finished. So hang in there and we'll see what we come up with. I was starting to lose our light, but let's go ahead and take a look at what we got so far. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Looks like we're just about ready to go ahead and put that in wrap. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this out and I'm going to foil wrap this and cover it up, and we're going to put it back on the pit and let it ride for a while longer. But it's starting to look real good, catching some of them juices and everything. So we'll get that done, and then we'll just chug down the road. Okay, so we just brought the barbecue in from outside, and we're going to let it rest for probably 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm going to emphasize that whole resting thing. Probably the biggest mistake in barbecue that people make is they do not rest their meat. They take it off and they're so anxious. It's been hours cooking, you know, and then they've got people usually around and they're smelling it and they want to have some right now, and they get it out and they get right into it, and you know all the juices and everything just run right out. But it's a little bit more than that. You know, it took a long time for that temperature to get up inside of that, and it's going to take a little bit to kind of rest down and reabsorb the flavors and everything. I mean, it's just not going to be the way it could be. I'm not saying it won't be good, but it's not going to be good barbecue, like over the top kind of barbecue. The kind of stuff that I cook. So give it rest time. I'm not even going to open it and peek, and I looked at it when it was out there on the pit, when it still had heat going on. I checked the texture. It was close to where I wanted it. It wasn't quite there, and you don't want it to be right there because you don't want it to go over the top while it's resting either. So it had a little tiny bit of tug left in it, not much. And so it's going to rest there. I'm going to give it a half-hour rest, and in the meantime, I'm going to take some fresh vegetables. I got some green onions here, and I'm going to chop these up, and we're going to do a little bit of cilantro and some tomato. And I was thinking about what am I going to do with this meat when I'm done with it. I mean, I can just stick it on a plate and eat it, but really we want to go over the top, right? So one thing about Mexican culture, you know, they're tremendous flavors and stuff that they use, and one thing that they always have on every plate that they make is a fresh element. And so I'm going to take this green onion, I'm going to chop it up, and then we're going to get a little cilantro, which I absolutely love. And some people I know are not real keen on cilantro, but there is a certain kind of freshness that it adds to a plate. And if you're going to be messing around with Mexican cuisine, if you're excluding cilantro, then you're really messing up bad. Big time. So we're going to put all this stuff on the side, and then we're going to make some tacos. We're going to pull out the cast iron, warm up some corn tortillas. We'll have Barbacoa Tacos. So 30 minutes to rest. I'm going to get this stuff ready. I'll get the tortillas going. I'm not going to bore you with filming that part of it. And we're going to plate this up, and you're going to see something extremely beautiful when it's done. Alright, so we got this dude out of the rest now, and it's ready to be pulled apart. So we're going to get with that, get it all shredded up, get them juices all mixed up in, and start to put our tacos together. Now, before I go any further with that, I want to give a shout out to an old friend of mine, Ovidio Perez. I used to work with him years ago. I mean, it's been 30 years, literally 30 years ago, when I first went to work with this guy. He taught me so much about Mexican food. I don't think he even realizes it. You know, he's the one that got me kind of obsessed with it initially. He introduced me to tripas. My first real understanding of cilantro, he was the one that brought it to me. We used to have these potlucks at work and stuff, and he was my supervisor. I worked for him, and we'd have these potlucks, and I would cook. I was cooking way back then, you know, and I'd bring stuff in to these potlucks, and I was pretty proud of it. And it was good stuff, just so you know. But man, Ovidio would bring things that were over the top in there, and you know, he would tell me, you know, what he did and why he did it, and he just had a passion for it. And you know, he not to the extent that he would be giving me recipes and stuff, but he would just talk about the food, and he would talk about the culture and stuff. And I was just so obsessed with that, you know, and you know, to this day it's been an influence on me. It's one of those things. There's so many layers of things in the course of your life that influence you and the things you do when it comes to cooking. And I just want to give that guy a shout out, man, and say thank you. I'm a better cook today because of the things that I learned from you. Okay, so let's get to shredding here. Let's see, we still got just a slightest bit of tug inside of this, and that's what we want. You want your meat to have a little chew, I always say that. So we're just pulling it apart. Come across any like really heavy duty nasty fat like that right there, we just kind of pull that away and get rid of it. You don't want that getting in nobody's mouth, but it's important that it was in there for the cook. Beautiful. A little hot still. Probably should have rested just a little bit longer, but that's all right. It's going to be good. All right, time to build us up some tacos. Barbacoa style. Now I've already tasted this, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's ridiculous. So it's good. This is true blue comfort food right here. Them chipotle peppers, which is really a roasted jalapeno. When it's cooked the way these were cooked, nice and slow, develops a really comforting, just a nice warm feeling going down the back of your throat. Got a little tiny bit of a kick to it, but it ain't enough to hurt anybody. Unless, of course, you're a sissy, and then maybe, but it's not going to fry your mouth out. It's just got a nice, comforting, warm feeling. And the flavor is just outstanding. So we got our green onions and a little cilantro, some tomato, there you go. Well, that's going to wrap this one up. If I didn't do anything other than just make you hungry and make your mouth water, I guess I did what I was setting out to do. So get out there, get it done. Send me an email with some pictures of what you're cooking, and we'll catch you next time. Go outside and cook.